You don't say things and then not do them. You say, this is where we draw the line. People like to know where the line is. I mean, even older people have to say, I can get away with a certain amount of nonsense, but this is the line. I go over this line, I'm in trouble.
Former Notre Dame University President, Father Theodore Hesburgh, today on Now I've Heard Everything. I'm Bill Thompson. Well, not many 6-year-olds know what they want to be when they grow up. I mean, really know what they want to be. But little Teddy was one of those. Little Theodore Hesburgh knew from the age of 6 that he wanted to be a priest. What he probably didn't realize was that someday he would also be the renowned, honored, and revered president of one of the most honored institutions of higher learning in America, Notre Dame University. But Father Theodore Hesburgh achieved those dreams and more. In 1952, he became president of Notre Dame University, a position that he held for 35 years, including through the turbulent 1960s when college campuses across America were roiled by controversy, protests, demonstrations, student takeovers. How did Father Theodore Hesburgh handle that? You'll hear that in this interview coming up. Finally, after his retirement in 1987, Father Theodore Hesburgh was persuaded to write his memoir, his autobiography. And so in 1990, he did. He called it God, Country, Notre Dame. And when he was on a book tour to promote it, that's when I had the chance to sit down for a few minutes with this illustrious and much honored leader. In just a moment, our conversation.
Have you ever opened a time capsule? You're about to. This interview is from national radio personality Bill Thompson's 30-year interview archive. Enjoy.
So here now, from 1990, Father Theodore Hesburgh.
We have a memorial door for the people who were killed in World War II on the church at Notre Dame, and it's called God, Country, and Notre Dame in Glory Everlasting, and it has a list of their names, and that's where the name came from.
Why did you write this book?
Well, I'll tell you, there was a lady named Pat Kosman of Doubleday who wrote me every year for 10 years saying, you got to do an autobiography, and I wrote back and said, I'm too busy doing it to write about it. And after I retired, she said, now you have a little more time. And I said, that's the theory, but it doesn't work that way. But I finally gave in and spent the last 2 years getting this book out.
It wasn't that you didn't want to write it, was it?
No, I didn't have no problem about writing it. It was just the time. Time is the big enemy, You have so many things you try to do, and I have about 50 jobs, always have had, so that...
But, they say if you want something done, give it to somebody who's very busy. It strikes me that when you look back on such a full life as you have led, it must... were you sometimes overwhelmed by what you have done by going back through and saying, wow, I'd forgotten about all that?
Well, yes, in a way, because I have a tendency to just pay attention to what I'm doing. Like right now, I'm doing this, and I'm not thinking of anything else. And when you add it all up, it does look like quite a bit. But again, as I said earlier, I've always had about 10 jobs at once. And if you've been doing that over the years, you manage to touch a lot of bases.
Now, you talk about that a little bit in the book when you've got many different things that all demand your attention. How do you juggle your priorities?
Well, first you do your homework, mostly in airplanes going to meetings. You don't worry about it till you leave for the meeting, and most of the time you have a couple-hour flight, and you get the homework done that way. Then, when you're at the thing, you pay full 100% attention to what you're doing. And you don't think about what's coming up next. And if you do one thing at a time, you don't worry about what's ahead of you, and you just do what you're doing now, somehow it all flattens out.
And the fact that you've had, what did you say, only half a dozen sleepless nights over the years?
That's right. Another thing, I don't worry. I go to bed and I go to sleep. I must confess the fact I say the rosary, and it's almost like a mantra, you do go to sleep quickly. But when I was a kid, my mother used to say, well, if you don't finish it, the angels finish it for you. So I've never had a problem of worrying about things. I do the best I can while I'm doing it. It's over, it's over.
I have to tell you, I hadn't even gotten 3 pages into your book before there was already some inspiration to draw upon. When you said that no matter what hat you've worn over the years, when you get right down to it, you've always considered yourself a priest.
That's right. You've got to be something. Everybody does. And I've considered that's what I want to be, a priest. And I don't do things that I can't do as a priest, and I don't take on jobs I can't do as a priest. But I've found over the years, if you're single-minded about that, and that's on your mind all the time, even when I'm walking across campus with an old pair of clothes on, out for a walk or something, I act the same as I would if I were all dressed up in the full regimentals. And sometimes I say hello to everybody and give them a big smile, and people sometimes wonder, who's this guy? And suddenly I remember that I'm just acting the way I always act.
How does a 6-year-old boy know that he wants to be a priest?
I don't know, but I'm glad it happened that way. A lot of people go through life, and I see it at the university, wondering, what am I going to do? You talk to kids that are graduating, seniors in college, 22 years old, and you say, what are you going to do? And they say, I don't really know. I'm going to go out and take a job, or I'm going to take a year off and wander around and try to find myself. I didn't have that problem, because from the very time I began thinking about being anything, I wanted to be a priest, and I'm glad it worked out that way.
What is special about Notre Dame? I mean, there are other Christian schools in this country. There are other schools based very deep-rooted in the Christian ethic, and very scrupulous and honest and ethical, and a great tradition. But Notre Dame stands head and shoulders above all of them. Why?
I think there's just a great spirit there. The youngsters seem to get it 5 minutes after they arrive. Someone said, you've got a great fight song. Well, I think it goes deeper than that. It's just a wonderful competitive spirit. It's a lively spirit. I think we believe in values and try to live them. People may be cheating all around, but the youngsters that get out of there, when I get letters from alumni, they always say the same thing. They say, I look back and I really learned values at Notre Dame, and that's made my whole life different. And even this morning I had a crisis, and I followed my value judgment that I had learned at Notre Dame. I think it's the value thing, the spirit of the place. I don't think you could recreate it, nor do I think anybody can take credit for it. Maybe the luckiest thing that happened to us was when the founder began it almost 150 years ago. He called it l'Université Notre Dame du Lac, the University of Our Lady of the Lake, and I think we got a little help from upstairs, too.
Is it a particular kind of challenge to run a school like Notre Dame, different than the challenge of running the University of Illinois, UCLA?
It is, because you're not just a university. You have to be that's the substantive. You've got to be a good university. But if you put an adjective on, you want to be a good Catholic university, it means the value thing looms very high. You're not just educating the mind, but the heart as well. Moral problems have to be taken up as well as intellectual problems. Now, that doesn't mean you stint on the intellectual or you stint on the university reality. That is there, and that it's a place where the mind is trained. But in addition to that, you try to train the heart as well.
And that must be a particular kind of challenge as well.
It is, and again, it gets back to the kinds of people that gravitate towards that kind of school. They want to.
It's not for everybody, is it?
No, and I have faculty who have taught at other kinds of universities come in and say, I always was uneasy if I mentioned values in the middle of a class on politics, say, but because social science is supposed to be value-free, that's what the book says anyway. But they said around here it's the most natural thing in the world, and people expect you to talk about values because they are important.
In your book, you address how Notre Dame, under your leadership, weathered the turbulent 60s when students were rioting and rampaging all over the country. What did you have to do to maintain the calm and the again that rock-like presence when everything around you was in turmoil?
Well, it was not an easy time. We were simply improvising. I remember the president of one great university got fired for calling the cops, and the president of an adjoining great university got fired for not calling the cops. And it was a time of improvisation. We hadn't had that happen before. I found that, one, I was trying to be honest with the students. When they were upset because of something that was to be upset about, like the Vietnam War or the state of poverty in the richest country on earth or human rights and things of that sort, I said, those are good causes. I'll march with you on those causes. But I said, you got to remember this is a university, and everybody has their rights, and people disagree. A university is supposed to be the one place on earth you can disagree without being disagreeable. So I said, you're going to have to look out for the rights of others as well as your rights, and I have to look out for the rights of everybody. Now, if you disturb a classroom or you try to burn down a building or you disrupt an academic meeting, you're going to be in real trouble, and I'm going to give you 15 minutes to think about it. And if you're still doing it at the end of 15 minutes, you're out for the semester. And now we're down to the short strokes. You get 5 minutes to cease and desist. And if you don't cease and desist in 5 minutes, you're out for good. Then you're trespassing. So, of course, they try you out. You can't just say that. I wrote that in a letter to every student on campus, and 12 of them tried me out. But they even told me beforehand they were going to test me, and I said, you're going to be the losers, and they were. But they all came back and all graduated, and they're good friends of mine today.
After this short break, Father Theodore Hesburgh talks about not letting your ego get in your own way.
Are you enjoying this conversation so far?
And would you like to get a copy of the book we're talking about?
Just tap the link in our show notes or visit our website, heardeverything.com.
When you make a purchase through our affiliate links, you're also supporting this podcast.
And we thank you for your support.
Now back to my 1990 conversation with Theodore Hesburgh.
You don't get very far by not speaking your mind. I mean, you've never been one to not say what's on your mind.
No. And the other thing I think is terribly important. You don't say things and then not do them. If you say, this is where we draw the line. I found this with young people, and I suspect it's true of young people of all ages of youngness, that people like to know where the line is. I mean, even married people, I think, older people have to say, I can get away with a certain amount of nonsense, but this is the line. I go over this line, I'm in trouble. And I think young people have to say, this is the line. I can get back 10 minutes late at night, but if I get back 2 hours late, I'm in trouble. Somehow the car keys are going to be taken away.
Yes. Where does ambition fit into the life of a priest?
I think ambition, it's okay to be ambitious for something good, and like I was ambitious to have a great Catholic university, but I think personal ambition is a worm in a person's life, like a worm in an apple. I think if you have ambition to do something, you'll find you're qualifying everything you do to get what you want to get. It's like you want to be a bishop, or you want to be a cardinal, or you want to be, I'm talking about a priest now. Mm-hmm. You won't stand up and talk out against authority. You won't be critical of your elders. You won't take tough moral stands when it'd be easier to waffle on them, or to. I did a certain amount of diplomatic work with the UN, and if I thought it was wrong, I voted no. But there are guys who used to say, why don't you abstain? And I said, let me tell you something. Dante had a best word on that. He said, anybody who is neutral when there are great moral questions at issue is going to get the lowest place in hell. That's the worst sin, to be neutral in the face of a great moral crisis, just to abstain rather than vote yes or no. So I think ambition, you got to distinguish ambition for something good, like helping create a great university, or ambition for your own personal life. The one is good, the other's bad.
Still, a lot of people outside the school may have had difficulty making that distinction. Obviously, you're the recipient of countless awards over the years. Is it difficult to maintain a humility when you know, on the one hand, that you are first and foremost, as you say, a priest?
Yeah.
You have to humble yourself before God, but on the other hand, people are bestowing all sorts of worldly honors on you. You get honorary degrees, you get awards, you're on commissions, your name's in the paper every day. Ann Landers consults you for advice.
Well, I've got a good line on that, I think, is that it's okay to hear yourself praised if you don't take it too seriously, or someone said if you don't inhale it. I really think you're in real trouble if you believe your press clippings, even if you're an athlete or you're a singer or whatever, an actor. I think you ought to be honest with yourself and do the best you can on what you're doing. And if people praise you, that's nice. But remember, there are always going to be people that chew you up, and I've had plenty of that too, especially if you're taking strong stands on difficult problems.
Has retirement been good for you?
Yeah, I don't think it's caught up with me yet. I'm as busy as I've ever been. I'm trying to chair about 5 institutes, all international, that I founded at the university, on international human rights, international development of the third world, and international peace in the face of nuclear war, environment, and ecumenism, getting Christians to be nice to each other and get along, as well as non-Christians. So those are busy activities. These are all university institutes, and we're building a new international building in which they'll be located. And I've belonged to about 50 other different organizations doing that same type of work so that we don't try to reinvent the wheel. If they're doing it, we'll profit from what they're doing. We try to do things that are very special.
I'd heard Billy Graham said the other day, some reporter had asked him why or when he was going to retire. And he said, I don't remember reading in the Bible about anybody retiring in there, so why should I?
Yeah. Well, it's as long as you can keep moving, you move. I think that the day will come when you find you can't put in 18-hour days or you can't travel as fast and as far as you're used to doing. But I think until then, I'm going to keep moving.
Your faith gives you a particular kind of strength to keep moving, doesn't it?
I think so, a great deal. You don't worry about things. You don't worry about, when am I going to get sick or when am I going to die? Or if you've got a strong faith, you live each moment for each moment. And when the time comes to pull down the curtain, you pull down the curtain. There's something better awaiting.
Does it still do your heart good to see the football team being number one in the nation?
Well, I don't take that too seriously, too, although I must say I've been accused of de-emphasizing. I really haven't de-emphasized when I was in charge because I feel whatever you do, you ought to do it as well as you can, and you ought to be right in there with the competition. But we had some terrible losing seasons at times, and I never got too excited about that either. So if you don't get excited when you're losing, you shouldn't get overexcited when you're winning.
Theodore Hesburgh died in 2015 at age 97. Now, you can get your copy of God, Country, Notre Dame by Father Theodore Hesburgh by tapping the link in our show notes, by clicking the link in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube, or by going to our website, heardeverything.com. We may earn an Amazon commission if you make a purchase. Heardeverything.com is where you can also find my 1990 conversation with famed Chicago educator Marva Collins.
Right in the heart of the inner city, our children wear white shirts every day. They wear ties. Their shoes are polished. We do a checklist every morning because we believe if you can't put an outfit together, it's common sense. You certainly can't keep the world together.
And my 1993 conversation with the author of Dead Man Walking, Sister Helen Prejean.
I'm opposed to people killing each other, period. No one has a right to kill another human being and to use violence.
And of course, we post new episodes of Now I've Heard Everything every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you can find us everywhere you find podcasts. And thank you so much for listening. Next time on Now I've Heard Everything, he's well known to ESPN viewers and ABC TV viewers. He's all around, but his wife thinks he's an idiot. My 2006 conversation with Mike Greenberg.
My wife has come to understand that over the many years. I understood that she really had come a long way in supporting my love of sports when she started watching games with me and occasionally even putting down her magazine.
That's next time on Now I've Heard Everything. I'm Dual Thompson.